It was proven in court that that tape was never played. The prosecution's first reaction was to blame the producer of the tape, as if she had something to do with their confusion in using it. So after they finished with Ken Rice's testimony, and after Ken Rice was forced to admit that the tape was never played and that he was mistaken, and he wouldn't quite agree to the fact that the government had gotten him to lie on the stand, but he had to agree that he was mistaken and know the tape had never been played. After that, then the government brought in the producer of the tape as if she was somehow guilty of something. The FBI goes to her office and goes through a lot of her records and materials in a very threatening way, and says, you're working with the defense and you're part of the problem, and we're going to look for a way to find you guilty of something now. When she's put on the stand, they attack her as if she had somehow been responsible for misleading them down the path that this tape had been played, when in fact she had had nothing to do with the conclusions they had drawn. They had drawn those all on their own. They tried to blame somebody who had nothing to do with any of their building of their case, namely the video producer for that particular tape. Blame her for somehow misleading them as if she was some Machiavellian intellect who had carefully crafted a case. And the thing that amused me when I was reading the transcript of that testimony was they were coloring her as a, quote, friend of Skilling. And because you're a friend of Skilling and because you are working with their defense team, therefore you have been working to mislead us, and therefore you're the one who's at fault for us making this mistake with this videotape. Is that right? All of which is absurd and just shows that whether they were going to hide the evidence willfully or just not deal with what evidence they had in a truthful manner, it didn't matter. They had a case they wanted to convince the jurors of, and that was the end of the game for them. And if innocent people went to jail, too bad. They never did admit that they had made a mistake, that they hadn't done their homework, that they hadn't bothered to look at the raw material to begin with, that just like every other piece of evidence that they had a spin on it, and that was the only thing they were interested in getting out, was their spin. They weren't interested in really what had really happened. And to the extent that it could be proven that something different happened, they were unhappy.